The email hit every SpaceX inbox like a shockwave. Urgent all-hands meeting, tomorrow, 9 a.m. No explanation, no hints, just a command to show up. At SpaceX, where every day pushed the limits of what's possible, this kind of mystery meant something big was coming. The company's massive Hawthorne headquarters buzzed with nervous energy as engineers, technicians, and office staff traded whispers. Was it a new mission? A crisis? Nobody knew, but the silence in the email felt loud. Maya Torres, a 32-year-old software engineer, stared at her computer screen, the email glowing in front of her. She'd been with SpaceX for 5 years, pouring her heart into code that guided rockets to the stars. Her desk, tucked in a corner of the open-plan engineering bay, was a mess of coffee cups, sticky notes, and a photo of her little brother, who dreamed of being an astronaut because of her. Maya's fingers hovered over her keyboard, her latest projected guidance algorithm for Starship forgotten. This isn't normal, she muttered, her stomach twisting. She'd seen big announcements before, but none came with this kind of eerie quiet dot around her. The office hummed with restless chatter. The clatter of keyboards slowed as heads popped up over cubicle walls. Maybe it's about the Mars timeline, said Liam, a wiry propulsion engineer sitting nearby, his voice hopeful but edged with doubt. Or layoffs, whispered Sarah, a data analyst, her eyes wide. Maya stayed quiet, her mind racing. She'd given up weekends, family dinners, even her brother's last birthday party to meet deadlines. SpaceX was her dream, but it came at a cost. What if this meeting meant her sacrifices were for nothing? The evening before the meeting, Maya sat in her tiny apartment, a half-eaten sandwich on the table. Her phone buzzed with texts from co-workers, each one tossing out a new theory, a NASA deal, a Starship breakthrough, or maybe a company shake-up. She remembered her first day at SpaceX, walking into the gleaming headquarters, feeling like she was part of something bigger than herself. Back then, she'd imagined coding the systems that would land humans on Mars. Now, staring at her phone, she wondered if that dream was at risk. The uncertainty gnawed at her, keeping her awake as the clock ticked toward morning. By 8:30 a.m., the SpaceX auditorium was packed. The room, usually reserved for rocket launch celebrations or technical briefings, felt different today. Rows of chairs overflowed with employees, some standing against the walls, others crowding the doorways. The air smelled of coffee and nervous sweat. Maya squeezed into a seat near the back, her heart pounding. She spotted Liam and Sarah a few rows ahead, their faces tense. The huge screens on either side of the stage were blank, offering no clues. No music played, no slides flash. Just silence, heavy and thick, wrapping around the room like a fog dot. At exactly 9 a.m., the side door opened. Elon Musk stepped onto the stage, his face unreadable. No smile, no wave, just a quick adjustment. Off the microphone, the crowd hushed instantly, every eye locked on him. Maya leaned forward, her breath catching. She'd seen Elon speak before, confident, bold, sometimes joking. Today, he was different. His gaze swept the room, lingering on the sea of faces. The silence stretched, longer than it should have, each second tightening the knot in Maya's chest. What could be so big that even Elon paused before speaking? Elon stood at the podium, his eyes scanning the silent auditorium. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a rocket launch, when every second could change everything. Maya Torres gripped the armrest of her chair, her knuckles pale. She'd poured 5 years into SpaceX, coding systems that could one day guide humans to Mars. But now, as Elon cleared his throat, her mind flashed to the sacrifices, missed birthdays, sleepless nights, the constant pressure to be perfect. What if it was all about to unravel? "I've been thinking about our future," Elon began, his voice steady but carrying an edge Maya couldn't place. "Not just Mars, not just rockets, but what it means to keep pushing forward." The room stayed quiet, every word sinking in. Maya glanced at Liam, who was leaning forward, his brow furrowed. Sarah whispered, "This doesn't sound good," her voice barely audible. Maya's heart raced. Was this about cutbacks? A shift? In the company's mission, her dream job felt like it was teetering on a knife's edge. Elon paused again, his gaze distant, as if wrestling with something unsaid. "We've hit a wall," he continued, and a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Maya's stomach dropped. A wall. SpaceX thrived on solving the impossible, crashing rockets, tight budgets, insane deadlines. What could stop them now? "The Starship program," he said, "is facing challenges we didn't expect. Challenges that could delay our Mars timeline by years." The words hit Maya like a punch. Her code, her late nights, her algorithms, they were the backbone of Starship. Was this her fault? The auditorium buzzed with uneasy murmurs. Maya's mind spiraled. She remembered the last test flight, how her team's guidance system had barely passed the final checks. She'd fixed a bug at 3 a.m., her eyes burning, her brothers disappointed. Voice on the phone when she missed his school play. Had she missed something bigger, something critical? She sank lower in her seat, guilt clawing at her. Around her, engineers exchanged worried glances, their whispers sharp with fear. "Funding," someone muttered. "Technical failures," another hissed. Nobody knew, and that made it worse. Elon raised a hand, silencing the room. "This isn't about money or tech," he said, his tone sharper now, almost personal. "It's about us, about what we're willing to give." Maya's breath caught. What did that mean? She'd already given everything, her time, her energy, her life outside these walls. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from her brother. "You okay?" Heard about the meeting. She ignored it, her chest tight. She couldn't face him if her work was falling apart. Flashbacks hit her hard, her first day at SpaceX, the thrill of joining a team chasing Mars, the pride when her code stabilized a test flight, the exhaustion when she'd collapsed on her couch after 20-hour shifts. Now, it felt like those moments were slipping away. "I need you to understand," Elon said, his voice softer but heavier. "This challenge is bigger than any one person. But it starts with us, right here." Maya's eyes stung. Was he blaming them, or was something else coming? Something none of them could predict. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Liam turned to Maya, his voice low and urgent. "What's he getting at? This feels personal." Maya shook her head, unable to answer. Her thoughts were a mess, fear, doubt, determination, all fighting. For space, she wasn't giving up, not after everything. But what if the problem was too big? What if Mars was slipping out of reach? Elon stepped closer to the microphone, his expression shifting, less guarded, almost raw. "I've made a decision," he said, the words hanging like a storm cloud. "One that will change how we work, how we live, how we fight for this mission." Maya froze, her heart pounding so loud she barely heard the gasps around her. What decision? Was it a restructuring? A new impossible deadline? or something so big it could break them all. The auditorium at SpaceX was a pressure cooker, every word from Elon Musk tightening the screws on Maya Torres's heart. His cryptic talk of a decision that would change everything hung in the air like smoke, choking her thoughts. She sat rigid, her hands clammy, her eyes locked on Elon's face for any clue. 5 years of coding for Starship, of giving up family time, of believing she was building humanity's future now. It felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Was this the end of her dream? Elon's voice dropped, almost a whisper. The Starship program isn't just a rocket. It's our promise to the future. But promises break when we're stretched too thin. Maya's chest ached. Stretched too thin. She knew that feeling nights spent debugging code until her vision blurred. Her brother's voice on the phone asking why she was always too busy, the weight of every deadline pressing down like a boulder. Had she stretched herself too far? Had they all? I've seen you, Elon continued, his gaze sweeping the room. Working late, missing life outside these walls, carrying the weight of Mars on your shoulders. Maya's throat tightened. She remembered her last birthday, spent alone in the office, eating cold pizza while her team scrambled to meet a test deadline. She'd told herself it was worth it, that Mars was worth it. But now, with Elon's words hinting at failure, doubt clawed at her. Had she sacrificed everything for a mission that might never happen? The room was silent, but Maya's mind screamed. She saw flashes of her brother's disappointed face, her empty apartment, the photo on her desk of a kid who believed she could touch the stars. Her code had saved test flights, but what if it wasn't enough? What if she wasn't enough? Her eyes burned, and she blinked hard, refusing to let tears fall in front of her team. Liam, sitting nearby, whispered, "This can't be it, right? We're not giving up." But his voice cracked, and Maya couldn't answer. She felt like she was drowning. Elon paused, his face unreadable, and the silence was unbearable. Maya's hands shook. She was at her breaking point, ready to walk away. If this was the end, then his voice shifted softer, almost warm. "But I'm not here to tell you we're failing," he said. The words hit like a lifeline. Maya's head snapped up, her breath catching. Not failing. The crowd stirred, a ripple of hope cutting through the fear. "I'm here to tell you we're doubling down," Elon said, his eyes blazing now. "But not the way you think." Maya leaned forward, her heart pounding. What did that mean? The challenge isn't just technical, it's human. You've given everything, and I've asked too much. His voice cracked slightly, and the room felt it, a raw, human moment from a man who seemed larger than life. Maya's guilt softened, replaced by a flicker of curiosity. Was he apologizing? "I've decided to change how we work," Elon said, stepping closer to the microphone. "Starting today, every SpaceX employee gets a 6-month paid sabbatical. Time to rest, to live, to come back stronger for Mars." The room froze, the words sinking in like a shockwave. Maya's jaw dropped. A sabbatical. 6 months. Her mind raced time to see her brother, to sleep without deadlines, to remember who she was outside of code. The weight on her chest lifted, just a little, and her eyes welled up, this time with relief. Gasps broke the silence, then murmurs, then a roar of disbelief and joy. Liam grabbed Maya's arm, his voice shaky. "Did he just say 6 months off?" Paige Sarah was crying, her hands covering her mouth. Maya nodded, stunned, feeling like she'd been pulled from the edge of a cliff. The auditorium erupted. In applause, a wave of raw emotion crashing over everyone. Maya clapped too, her hands trembling, a smile breaking through her exhaustion. For the first time in years, she felt seen. But as the applause faded, Elon raised a hand, his face serious again. "There's one condition," he said, and the room hushed instantly. Maya's stomach twisted. "A condition," her spark of hope flickered. "When you come back," he said, his voice steady, "I need you to bring an idea. One idea that could change how we reach Mars forever." The words landed like a challenge, heavy and thrilling. Maya's mind spun an idea. Could she do it? Could she rise to this? As the crowd buzzed with nervous excitement, Maya sat back, her heart racing. 6 months to rest, to heal, to dream again, but one idea to change the future. The weight was back, but it felt different, now not crushing, but electric. She looked at the photo of her brother in her mind, his eyes full of stars. What could she create for him, for Mars, for them all? And what if her idea wasn't enough? The auditorium pulsed with a restless energy, every SpaceX employee hanging on Elon Musk's words. Maya Torres sat frozen, her heart hammering as his last statement echoed in her mind. One idea that could change how we reach Mars forever. The promise of a 6-month paid sabbatical had sparked hope. But this condition, this challenge felt like a gauntlet thrown at her feet. Her palms were sweaty, her thoughts a whirlwind. Could she deliver something that big? The room buzzed with whispers, but Maya barely heard them. Her eyes were locked on Elon, waiting for what came next. He leaned into the microphone, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. "There's something you need to know," he said, pausing just long enough to make the silence unbearable. Maya's breath hitched. The air felt thick, like the moment before a rocket's engines roared to life. The Starship program isn't just delayed by technical problems. There's a truth we've been shielding you from. The crowd stilled. A collective intake of breath. Maya's stomach twisted. Shielding. What could be so big they'd kept it from the team? Elon's gaze hardened, but his voice softened, carrying a weight that made Maya's chest ache. 6 months ago, we found a flaw in Starship's core design. A flaw so deep it could have grounded us for a decade. Gasps erupted, sharp and raw. Maya's hands flew to her mouth, her mind racing back to her code, her algorithms, the sleepless nights she'd spent perfecting them. Was this flaw in her work? Her vision blurred, guilt crashing over her like a wave. She saw her brother's face, his astronaut dreams pinned on her success. Had she let him down? "It's not what you think," Elon said quickly, as if sensing the panic spreading through the room. "This flaw wasn't your fault. It was mine." The words hit like a thunderclap. Maya's jaw dropped, her heart stuttering. Elon, the man who seemed to see the future, admitting a mistake. Murmurs rippled through the auditorium, a mix of shock and disbelief. Liam, beside her, whispered, "No way," his voice shaky. Sarah's eyes were wide, her hands trembling in her lap. Elon stepped closer to the edge of the stage, his expression raw, almost vulnerable. "I pushed the design too fast, ignored warnings from the team. I thought we could outrun the problem." His voice cracked, and Maya felt a pang of empathy she hadn't expected. She knew that drive, that need to push forward. She'd felt it every time she'd stayed up until dawn, chasing perfection. "But you," he continued, his eyes sweeping the crowd, "you kept us going. Your work, your ideas, your sacrifices kept Mars in reach." Maya's throat tightened, tears prickling her eyes. Not her fault. Not her team's. The relief was overwhelming, but it came with a new weight. Elon's mistake had put their dream at risk, and now he was asking them to fix it. She felt a spark of anger. How could he let this happen? But it was drowned by something else, determination. She'd given too much to let Mars slip away now. Elon's voice rose, urgent and electric. That's why the sabbatical. That's why the challenge. I need your brilliance, your fresh eyes, to find the solution I couldn't. One idea, from any of you, could rewrite our path to Mars. The room was silent again, but it wasn't fear this time, it was possibility. Maya's mind raced, fragments of code and concepts swirling. She thought of her brother, his voice full of wonder when he talked about space. She thought of her late nights, her breakthroughs, her belief that she could make a difference. Her hands stopped shaking. Her breath steadied. The revelation wasn't just Elon's failure, was a call to action, a chance to prove what she could do. She wasn't just a coder. She was part of something bigger. The flaw was real, but so was her resolve. She leaned forward, her eyes locked on Elon, her heart pounding with a new kind of fire. She could do this. She would do this. As the auditorium erupted in a mix of applause and excited chatter, Maya made a decision. She wouldn't just take the sabbatical to rest, she'd use it to dig deeper, to find the idea that could save Starship. She grabbed her phone, her fingers flying as she texted her brother, "I'm going to make Mars happen, for you." She stood, her legs steady despite the whirlwind in her chest, and joined the crowd streaming toward the exits, her mind already racing with possibilities. But as she stepped into the hallway, a new question stopped her cold. What if the flaw was bigger than anyone realized, and her idea wasn't enough to fix it? The SpaceX headquarters thrummed with urgency, a hive of engineers and dreamers racing against a ticking clock. Maya Torres stood in the engineering bay, her laptop glowing with lines of code, her heart pounding like a rocket engine at full thrust. 6 months had passed since Elon Musk's bombshell announcement, the Starship design flaw, the paid sabbatical, the challenge to bring one idea to save Mars. Now, the deadline loomed. Tomorrow, every employee would present their solution to the flaw that threatened to ground SpaceX's mission forever. For Maya, this was her ultimate test, and failure wasn't an option. Her eyes burned from sleepless nights, her desk a chaos of energy drink cans and scribbled notes. The flaw, critical instability in Starship's navigation system, haunted her. Her code was supposed to guide the rocket through the void of space, but simulations kept failing, veering Starship off course. If she couldn't fix it, Mars would slip further away, and with it, her dream of making her brother's astronaut hopes real. She could still hear his voice from their last call. "You're gonna do it, Maya. I know you will." The weight of his faith pushed her forward, but doubt gnawed at her. What if she let him down? The bay buzzed with frenetic energy engineers, shouting, screens flashing with data, the air thick with coffee and tension. Liam, her teammate, darted past, his face pale. "Maya, you got anything?" "My propulsion fix crashed again." She shook her head, her voice tight. "Still fighting." "The nav system. It's like it's thinking against me." Sarah, nearby, slammed her keyboard. "We've got 12 hours left. This is insane." The stakes were brutal. If no one solved the flaw, SpaceX's timeline could collapse, costing jobs, dreams, and humanity's shot at Mars. Maya's fingers flew across her keyboard, tweaking algorithms she'd rewritten 100 times. Her sabbatical had been no rest. She'd spent it diving into Starship systems, studying every failure, every glitch. She'd visited her brother, his room plastered with space posters, and promised him she'd make Mars real. That promise burned in her now, but the clock was merciless. Her latest simulation ran, the screen flickering with data. Her breath caught as the virtual starship wobbled, then stabilized, then veered wildly, crashing in a silent explosion of red error messages. No, she gasped, her hands shaking. She was so close, but it wasn't enough. Her mind flashed to the auditorium 6 months ago, Elon's voice confessing his mistake, challenging them to rise. She'd felt empowered then, but now despair clawed at her. She slumped in her chair, her face in her hands, the photo of her brother staring from her desk. "I'm failing you," she whispered, her voice breaking. The bass noise faded, leaving only her heartbeat and the crushing weight of her own limits. She'd given everything: sleepless nights, missed family moments, her entire soul poured into code. Was it all for nothing? Then a memory sparked: her brother, age 10, pointing at a star, asking, "How do you make a rocket know where to go?" She'd laughed, explaining how navigation systems adapt, learn, predict. Her eyes widened. Predict. Her code was reacting to errors, not anticipating them. What if it could learn the flaws' patterns? Her heart raced, a flicker of hope cutting through the fog. She straightened, her fingers trembling as she opened a new file. This was her last shot. The hours blurred into a frenzy. Maya coded like her life depended on it, weaving machine learning into her navigation system, teaching it to predict and counter the instability. Her body screamed for rest, her back ached, her vision swam, but she pushed through, fueled by desperation and that spark of possibility. Liam hovered, watching her screen. "What's that? You're rewriting the whole thing now." She nodded, her voice fierce. "It's gotta think ahead, not just react." Sarah leaned in, eyes wide. "Maya, if this works..." The final simulation loaded at 4 a.m., the bay quieter now, littered with exhausted engineers. Maya's hands shook as she hit run. The screen flickered, Starship's path tracing across a virtual sky. It wobbled her heart, stopped, then adjusted, gliding smoothly toward its target. Green text flashed, "Simulation successful." Maya gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face, relief and joy crashing over her. "It worked," she whispered, then louder, "It worked." Liam whooped, Sarah hugged her, and the bay erupted in cheers as others saw her screen. But the real test was coming. At 9 a.m., Maya stood in the packed auditorium, her laptop under her arm, facing Elon and the entire SpaceX team. Her legs trembled, but her resolve was iron. She stepped to the stage, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "My idea," she began, projecting her screen, "teaches Starship to predict its own flaws and adapt in real time." The room leaned forward, Elon's eyes locked on her. She ran the simulation, the smooth path drawing gasps. When it finished, silence fell and applause exploded, deafening and raw. Elon stood, his face unreadable at first, then breaking into a rare smile. "That's it," he said, his voice carrying over the cheers. "That's the spark we needed." Maya's knees nearly buckled, tears spilling again. She'd done it not just for Mars, but for her brother, for herself. The flaw was conquered, the path to Mars clear. As she stepped off the stage, Liam and Sarah mobbed her, their faces alight. Maya clutched her phone, ready to call her brother, her heart soaring. She'd faced the impossible and won, proving she was more than her doubts, more than her failures. Mars was closer now, and she'd lit the way. The SpaceX auditorium echoed with fading applause, the air still electric from Maya Taurus's triumph. Her navigation algorithm, her idea that taught Starship to outsmart its own flaws, had just won Elon Musk's approval, securing the path to Mars. Maya stepped off the stage, her legs wobbly, her heart pounding with a mix of exhaustion and euphoria. She clutched her laptop like a lifeline, her eyes stinging with tears of relief. Around her, colleagues surged forward, Liam slapping her shoulder, Sarah pulling her into a fierce hug, their voices a blur of "you did it." And that was incredible. But inside, Maya was still catching up to the moment, her mind replaying the journey that brought her here. Back at her desk, the engineering bay felt different now. The chaos of empty coffee cups and scattered notes was still there, but the weight that had crushed her for months was gone. She sank into her chair, her body aching from the all-night coding marathon, but her chest felt light, like she could finally breathe. The photo of her brother, his grin bright under a paper astronaut helmet, stared back from her desk. She'd done it for him, for the kid who believed she could touch the stars. Her phone buzzed, his name flashing on the screen. She answered, her voice shaky. "Maya, you're a hero," he shouted, and she laughed, tears spilling as she told him everything. His pride washed over her, stitching together the pieces of herself she'd lost to endless deadlines. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Elon's team fast-tracked Maya's algorithm into Starship's systems, and test simulations ran flawlessly, each success a spark of hope for the Mars mission. The company buzzed with a renewed energy. Engineers traded ideas. Laughter filled the cafeteria, and the parking lot hummed with teams working late, not out of fear but excitement. Maya walked through the halls, noticing smiles from colleagues she'd barely spoken to before. She wasn't just the coder who fixed a flaw. She was part of a family chasing the impossible. But the victory wasn't without scars. She'd lost sleep, time with her brother, moments of her life she'd never get back. The cost of Mars was real, and she carried it in the shadows under her eyes. The ache in her heart. Sitting in her apartment that weekend, Maya stared out her window at the California stars. She thought about her first day at SpaceX, a wide-eyed dreamer stepping into a world of rockets and ambition. She'd been so sure she could conquer anything, but the past 6 months had tested her to her core out. Guilt, the crushing fear of failure. She'd faced it all, from the panic of that urgent all-hands meeting to the sleepless nights wrestling with code. She'd learned she wasn't invincible, but she was stronger than she'd ever known. The flaw in Starship hadn't just been technical. It had forced her to confront her own limits and find a way through. The company threw a small celebration the next week, a rare moment of pause in SpaceX's relentless pace. In the cafeteria, under strings of lights, Elon raised a glass to the team, his voice warm. "You've reminded me what this mission is about," he said, his eyes finding Maya's. "It's not just Mars, it's us, together, refusing to give up." The room cheered, but Maya's smile was quiet, reflective. She'd gained more than a win. She'd gained clarity. Her work wasn't just codite, was a promise to her brother, to herself, to humanity's future. As she drove home that night, the stars above seemed closer, brighter. She thought about the audience watching her story, wondering what they'd take from it. Would they see the grind, the sacrifice, the spark of hope that kept her going? Would they feel the weight of chasing a dream bigger than one person? Maya's journey had come full circle from a nervous coder in a packed auditorium to a woman who'd changed the course of Mars. She wasn't the same dreamer she'd been. She was wiser, scarred, and fiercely proud. The road stretched ahead. And Maya whispered to herself, "We're going to Mars 'cause we dared to keep going."